What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and we are knee-deep in the NFL playoffs for 2015. Wildcard weekend has passed us by. We are now into the divisional round. We are down to the Elite Eight, if you want to call them. In wildcard weekend, I had a pretty successful wildcard weekend, actually. I ran the table with the picks straight up, including picking the Baltimore upset against Pittsburgh. Against the spread and over-under, I wasn't too bad. I was 2-2 and 2-2. I actually ran the table in the AFC. I was 2-0 straight up, 2-0 against the spread, and 2-0 over-under. Now, what that means, of course, is I was only 2-4 in the NFC, so a little bit of work needs to be done there. That's where we're going to start again this week with the two division round matchups in the NFC. Carolina is going to hit the road this week, leaving home and going up to Seattle, arguably the hardest place in the league to go and play as the road team to face the #1 ranked Seahawks. The Cowboys are also going to hit the road this week, although that's not exactly been a problem for them this year, except for the fact that they're going to Lambeau Field to play Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. So we're going to start with that 1v4 game. The Carolina Panthers now 8-8-1 on the season, only 3-4-1 on the road this year, traveling up to Seattle to play the Seahawks, who were 12-4, 7-1 at home this year, and had the #1 seed in the NFC. Seahawks are currently favored by 10.5 points at home, with the total sitting at 40. The season series here sits at 1-0 Seattle. Week 8 this season, Seattle went into Carolina and beat the Panthers in a very low-scoring game, 13-9. Last 10 head-to-head matchups, there haven't been 10 head-to-head matchups between these two teams. Carolina was only incorporated as a team in 1993, and they've only been in the NFC since, I believe, 2000 or 2001. There have only been 8 lifetime matchups between these two teams. Seattle has won 6 of them. As we mentioned last week with Carolina, they do have a top 10 offense this year, averaging just over 23 points per game, and they had about a middle-of-the-road defense, which is kind of funny when you think this is a team that is basically predicated on defense, but they only gave up around 21.2 points per game. Playing Seattle is a bit of a different beast here. Even just overall in the season, Seattle also had a top 10 offense. They ranked #9, but once again, when the dust settled and it was all said and done, Seattle had the #1 total defense in football this year, only giving up 267 yards per game on average. That is unbelievable. Things get a little better for Carolina offensively when they hit the road, averaging 24 points per game versus the 21 pace that they set up through the season. Unfortunately, they give that back on the defensive side of the ball. Carolina has allowed 27 points per game on average on the road this year. That's very significant playing Seattle, because Seattle at home, as we said, is a different beast. Statistically, though, it's not overly impressive, really. Seattle is scoring an extra point per game and giving up an extra point fewer per game. So it's only 1 point on either side. Biggest X factor here for the home Seahawks is going to be containing Cam Newton. Newton's last 4 games, he hasn't exactly set the world on fire with his arm. 67 out of 112 for 739 with 7 touchdowns and 2 picks. But his run game has really picked up. Arguably, he's been doing his best work as a runner in his last 4 games. 37 touches, 232 yards, and he's hit the end zone 3 times. The Seahawks are used to facing running quarterbacks in their division, having to face Colin Kaepernick, so it's not that it's going to be a foreign concept to them, but that's probably going to be their biggest task in this game, is defending Cam Newton, especially on the ground. Last week I told you that the biggest X factor for the Panthers was playing like they had nothing to lose. And last week they had nothing to lose. Nobody thought that they should have been there in the first place. This week they do have something to lose, because they're only a game away from the NFC Championship game. They can smell that game as hard as any of those other teams in the NFC can. So they do have something to lose this week. But their biggest X factor is going to be making every single possession that they have count. Doesn't matter if it's field goals, it's putting points on the board. Carolina needs to turn this into a game where whoever has the ball last is the team that's probably going to win. So we're going to start with that over-under number 40, another small number for Carolina. I told you to take the under last week and it didn't work out. It was still a low-scoring game, but that was a really small number. This week, 40, it goes up a couple of points. I'm still going to tell you to take the under. Again, it's another small number. All-time head-to-head between these two teams, again, they've only played 8 times. Not only has the under gone 5-2-1, it's gone 5-2-1 under 40. I just think this is going to be a really low-scoring game. I think it is going to be that whoever has the ball last is probably the team that's going to win. Points are going to be hard to come by. I'm going to tell you to take under 40. Straight up here, I like the Seahawks. I don't see Carolina, who is, as we've mentioned, a 500 team. I don't see them coming into Seattle and beating the Seahawks at home. Seahawks are also on a 3-game winning streak head-to-head in this matchup and are possibly the best overall home team in football. If last week's line was insulting, this week's line is borderline disgusting. Carolina would be 6-2 against the spread lifetime as a plus 10.5 against Seattle. 10.5 points, way too many in a low-scoring game. So I like Seattle to win straight up, but I'm going to tell you to take Carolina plus 10.5 on the line. All right, now let's go to that 2 versus 3 matchup. The Dallas Cowboys now 13-4 on the season, and again a perfect 8-0 on the road this year, undefeated, really impressive. Taking on the number 2 ranked Green Bay Packers, 12-4 on the season, who were also 8-0 at home. So this is the ultimate matchup of something's gotta give. Packers are favored by 6 points at home, the second highest total of the week as well at 52.5. These two teams did not play each other this season. To find their last matchup, you have to go back to December of 2013, a 37-36 Green Bay win in Dallas. Now, the last 10 head-to-head matchups, as you might have guessed, split 5-5. Dallas's number 7 ranked total offense struggled at times last week against Detroit, but then again, Detroit's got one of the elite defenses in the NFL. They're not going to be facing that this week. Dallas's offense, again, 29.2 points per game on average on the season. Green Bay's defense only ranks number 15 in the NFL this year, so they're right at the middle of the pack. Where they made up for that was in the offense. Green Bay had the number 6 ranked total offense on the season, so it's 2 top 10 offenses going head-to-head. This is another one of those games where I think home field advantage is going to play such a role in this game. Green Bay averaged 40 points per game at home this year. Let me say that again. Green Bay averaged 40 points per game in their 8 home games this year. No wonder they were 8-0. And the defense gets a little bit better too. They only gave up about 20 points per game. So you think about that. That's 3 possession difference between scoring and what you're giving up on defense. That is unbelievable. What a home season for Green Bay. Dallas, of course, had a very successful road campaign, as we've talked about. They were 8-0, averaged 34 points per game, and only gave up about 23 points per game. Biggest X factor here for the hometown Packers is what I like to refer to as the NFL's cheat code, and that is Aaron Rodgers. Check out these home field numbers for Aaron Rodgers this year. They are unbelievable. Of course, 8-0, as we mentioned, the Packers won all 8 games at home. 161 out of 240, that's 67%. That's really good for a quarterback. 2,334 yards in 8 games, 25 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. A quarterback ranking of 133.2. It's quite possible that Aaron Rodgers had the best home performance of a quarterback in league history this year. It was really, really something special to watch. That's going to be their biggest X factor. Rodgers is, of course, a little hampered with his calf injury, so if Rodgers is limited in any way, they're really going to have a problem here because Dallas is a great team on the road and they make their possessions count. The biggest X factor I see for the Cowboys is they have to ride this huge wave of momentum that comes from them playing on the road. I mean, they were the NFL's best road team this year. The December and January curse seems like it's broken with their win last week. It is nothing but momentum for Dallas, nothing but moving forward. Let's take a look at that number, 52.5. I don't see any reason why this doesn't go over. It's 2 middle-of-the-pack defenses. Again, Green Bay number 15, Dallas, as we mentioned last week, number 19 overall defense. And it's 2 great offenses, 2 top 10 offenses that can move the ball and put up points. I think it's probably going to sail over, so I think you can bet with confidence with the over in this one. I got to go Green Bay. I mean, something does have to give here, but Green Bay has been so spectacular at home this year. Yeah, they're coming off of a bye, but I need to see them falter at all, really, at home before I would bet against them in their own barn. And I'm going to tell you to stick with the Packers on the line as well. Green Bay -6. It's all the eggs in one basket, but I mean, I really love Green Bay at home, and if you get them by less than a touchdown at home, I think you kind of have to take it. So I think you get them by less than a touchdown, I think you got to take it. So Green Bay -6. Before we move on, folks, just a quick reminder that you can vote for me in the 2014 Geo Knows Award. This is, of course, my trophy last year for being the most entertaining prognosticator on YouTube. Go to geoknows.com/awards.php. The link is going to be in the description below. Vote for Bridgewater's Finest, once again for most entertaining and for prognosticator of the year. Okay, folks, let's move on to the AFC, where, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I ran the table last week, 2-0 straight up, 2-0 against the spread, and 2-0 over-under. The Baltimore Ravens are going to be traveling to New England to play the Patriots. It seems every year we get a Baltimore at New England game, so it's going to be another great one, I'm sure. And the number 4 ranked Indianapolis Colts are going to be traveling to Denver to play the number 2 Broncos. So let's start with that lowest versus highest matchup there. The Baltimore Ravens, who again beat the Pittsburgh Steelers last week to get here, ranked number 6 in the AFC, 11-6 now on the season and 5-4 on the road, traveling to Foxborough, Massachusetts to play the number 1 ranked New England Patriots, 12-4 on the year, 7-1 at home. Patriots are favored here by a touchdown, with the total being 47. These two teams did not meet this season. You got to go back to December of 2013 to find their last matchup, a 41-7 New England win in Baltimore. The last 10 head-to-head matchups see a significant advantage for the Patriots, 7-3, but it is worth noting that this matchup is 3-3 in the last 6. New England fell just outside the top 10 this year, both in total offense and total defense. They had the number 11 ranked offense in terms of yardage on the season, but they were a very opportunistic offense. They only averaged 366 yards per game, but they put up 29.3 points per game with that yardage. New England also only had the number 13 total defense, but only gave up 19.3 points per game. Baltimore, as we mentioned last week, had a top 10 total defense on the season, only giving up 19 points per game. Their offense also falling just outside the top 10, right behind New England at number 12. New England, another team, obviously, who had a very good home season this year, going 7-1. New England put up 33 points per game on average in their home games this year, and the defense got better too, only giving up about 17 points per game. Baltimore's defense struggled comparatively on the road this year, giving up about 24 points per game, as I believe we mentioned last week. The biggest X factor I see here for the hometown Patriots is figuring out whether that home defense is really for real. Baltimore is easily the best offense that New England is going to have faced at home since Denver in Week 9. They had a relatively fluffy home schedule getting towards the end of the season, playing some of their division rivals who don't have great offenses. Is that going to play a factor here? And finding out if that Patriots defense at home, who, as we mentioned, only gave up 17 points per game, finding out if that defense is really for real. Last week I told you the biggest X factor for the Ravens was how that run game was going to perform. Short answer, it didn't. The running backs didn't perform. They did not put up a good game. Now, Pittsburgh's got a pretty devastating run defense. New England's got a pretty good run defense of their own, so I don't think they should lean on those running backs, to be perfectly honest. I think this is a game where Joe Flacco is going to have to air the ball out. The Pats only had the number 17 pass defense in the league this year, which is lower than their season average, so Flacco's got to dominate this game. I do think this game is going to be a bit of a gunfight, though, so in that number, that total of 47, I'm going to tell you to take the over there as well. Again, it's got all the makings of a gunfight. You got Tom Brady against Joe Flacco. Flacco always seems to get up and play really well against the Patriots, and Brady is Brady. You've got Torrey Smith and Steve Smith Sr. going up against that combination, however New England chooses to use them, of Gronk and Amendola and Edelman and Brandon LaFell. I gotta think it's probably going to be a gunfight. I'm going to tell you to take over the 47 points. Straight up here, I got to go with the Patriots. I wanted to go with Baltimore because I like Baltimore, and I think Baltimore's built as a playoff team, but I think New England's going to win this game. They fought way too hard to get home field advantage, first of all, and played way too well at home this year to slip up at this point. On the line, I'm going to tell you to take the underdogs here. I'm going to tell you to go Baltimore +7, only because the Patriots have not covered a -7 spread against Baltimore in Foxborough in a decade. I'm going to tell you to play it safe there, take Baltimore +7, but New England straight up to win the game. And our final matchup of the week, of course, Indianapolis at Denver. Of course, meeting between Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning one more time, and these games are always exciting when these two get together. The Indianapolis Colts, number 4, now 12-5 on the season, 5-3 on the road this year, so not a bad road record. Taking on the Denver Broncos, 12-4 on the season, and a perfect 8-0 at home. The Broncos are also favored by a touchdown at home, with the total being the biggest total of the week at 54. These two teams met in week 1 of the season, an exciting game to start off the season, with the Broncos winning that game 31-24 in Denver. Last 10 head-to-head matchups here have been 7-3 Indianapolis, but for the lion's share of those matchups, Peyton Manning was on the other side, was on the Colts. Denver, unsurprisingly, had the number 4 total offense in football this year, averaging over 402 yards per game and putting up 30 points. Shockingly, and I say shockingly not because I thought they were bad, but shockingly, Denver had the number 3 total defense in football this year. That is unbelievable. Very quietly, that Denver defense had a fantastic season. As we mentioned last week, Indianapolis, slightly better offense than Denver in terms of total rankings. They are number 3. Indy, of course, falling just outside the top 10 in total defense at number 11. In the friendly confines at Mile High Stadium, Denver averaged 35 points per game on offense, so a full 5 points better than their season average, which is quite good. The defense pretty much holds true. They give up around 21 to 22 points per game. On the road this season, Indianapolis, their output goes up, but only very slightly. It basically just stays true. 29 points per game on average, but Indy really slips up on defense on the road, giving up 28 points per game. My biggest X factor here for the home team is wondering whether or not Peyton is actually healthy. The only reason I ask that is in his last 4 games, percentage-wise, he's been fine. 77 out of 121 in his last 4. So at 63%, percentage-wise, it's fine. He's only thrown 3 touchdowns, and he's thrown 6 interceptions. Now, yes, 4 of those were in that one game against Cincinnati. So 4 of them, they're all in that one game. But I'm interested to see how Peyton reacts to the bye week, and it'll be interesting when Denver's season is ultimately over, what comes out of their camp about the health of their quarterback, because I get the sneaking suspicion there's something wrong with Peyton. Biggest X factor here for the Colts is going to be protecting Luck. The Colts have 6 offensive linemen right now on injured reserve. That is huge. That not only hurts the quarterback play, but it also hurts the run game. So whether or not they're going to be able to protect Andrew Luck, which they didn't do the greatest job of last week, seeing whether they're going to be able to protect him is probably going to be what's going to determine the outcome of this game. Take a look at that total, 54. You know where I'm going with this. That sucker's going to go over. It's a big number, but it's 2 top 5 offenses. They're going to be going shot for shot in this game. Yes, Indianapolis has struggled to put up points here, but it's in thin air, and I think Luck and Manning, as long as he's healthy and okay, they're just going to be able to throw all day on these two defenses. No disrespect to Denver or Indy, really, but I think these two quarterbacks are going to be able to throw all day in this environment. So 54, go over. Straight up here, I like Denver. Let's be honest, folks. We all want to see Denver against New England in the AFC Championship game. We do. That's just a fact of life. We all want to see it. The Colts were a good road team this year. Denver is an elite home team. But I don't like them on the line. I like Indy +7. The Colts were 1-0 against the spread as underdogs of 7 or more points this season. And Denver was only 4-4 against the spread 2-3 at home, so 3 of those 4 ATS losses coming at home as favorites of 7 or more this year. So, I mean, the Broncos, it's not that they can't do it, and it's not that they haven't done it. I just like Indy to keep this game close enough in what will probably be a shootout, like I said. So I like Denver straight up, but I like Indy +7 on the line. Okay, folks, there you have it. There's the picks for the AFC and the NFC in the divisional round. We'll go over them here with you one more time, starting again in the NFC. Number 4, Carolina at number 1, Seattle. Straight up, I like Seattle to win the game. On the line, I like Carolina +10.5. That's too many points for me. The over-under, I like the game to stay under 40 points. Going on to Dallas at Green Bay, 3-2. Straight up, I like Green Bay here to win the game at home. I also like Green Bay -6 on the line. Get them by under a touchdown. Going to take them. The over-under there, 52.5. I'm going to tell you to take over 52.5. Looking at the AFC, 6-1, Baltimore at New England. I like New England straight up to win this game, but I like Baltimore +7 on the line. I think the game's going to be closer than that. Over-under, I'm going to tell you to take over 47 points. And in the 4-2 matchup, Indianapolis at Denver. I like Denver straight up to win the game. Once again, I like the underdog here. I like Indy +7 on the line. I like the game to go over 54 points. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. I hope you're doing well with the playoffs this year. Don't forget, you can vote for Bridgewater's Finest in the 2014 Geo Knows Awards for Prognosticator of the Year, as well as Most Entertaining, if you would like. And that is going to do it for this week's video. We're going to see you again for the AFC and NFC championship games. Enjoy the games this weekend. Hope you're taking some of the man's money. See you next time.